What do you do when the people who promised to die for you are the same ones digging your grave? Ebony thought she was untouchable, backed by the memory of her father and the influence of powerful elders. But today, the palace is on fire. The great lion who has spoken, the money has dried up, and the people Ebony called family are vanishing into thin air. Is Ebony's spiritual power real, or was she just a pawn in a bigger game? Can a mother's tears stop a king's wrath? Who is the real traitor hiding among the elders? May every hidden trap set by people you trust be exposed today. May you find peace in the middle of your storm, and may the truth always set you free. Amen. The atmosphere in the palace of Ife has shifted from celebration to cold, biting fear. My crown gist friends and families, you need to understand the level of tension we are talking about. It is the beginning of a new year, a time when most people are making resolutions and sharing hugs, but for Ebony, the air is thick with the scent of betrayal. The walls of the palace, which used to feel like a fortress of protection, now feel like they are closing in on her. The story begins with a cry that echoed through the inner chambers. It sounds so piercing it could wake the ancestors. It wasn't the cry of a child, but the agonizing wail of Ebony's mother. She wasn't just crying because of the politics or the palace gossip. She was crying because of the look she saw in her daughter's eyes. She saw a level of desperation, anger, and frustration that no mother ever wants to witness. She saw a girl who had been pushed to the edge, staring back at a world that was no longer smiling at her. I warned you, the mother screamed through her tears, her voice shaking with a mix of grief, and I told you so. I told you about your father's dream. I warned you that this path will lead to fire. This dream is where the mystery starts to get dark. You see, Ebony's father was a man of great weight and respect before he passed away. Allegedly, he appeared to the mother in a vision that was more like a haunting than a visitation. He didn't come with a blessing or a smile. He came with a healthy, terrifying warning for his daughter. In this vision, the father was restless, pacing the spiritual realm with a troubled spirit. He told the mother to tell Ebony to back down immediately. He said the great lion, the king himself, was no longer eating or sleeping because of Ebony's constant wahala. He described the lion like a lion that had been poked too many times, and now the lion was ready to roar. The most chilling part of that dream, the father warned that Ebony was supposed to be the king's peace, his sanctuary, but instead, she had become his greatest headache. He warned that if she did not change her ways and lower her shoulders, she would not be the one to raise her own children. He said another woman will sit in her place, eating the fruit of her labor while she watches from the sidelines, or worse. It was a warning from the grave, a spiritual red flag that should have stopped Ebony in her tracks. But Ebony, filled by the whispers of 13 elders and the pride of her position, ignored it. She felt that because she had married the king, she was now the co-owner of the kingdom of Ife. She forgot a very important lesson in palace life. The same people who shout hallelujah today and lay palm fronds at your feet are the exact same ones who will shout crucify her tomorrow when the wind changes direction. For years, Ebony has been seen as a pillar of the community. Through her foundation, she brought massive material resources to Ife. She helped the widows who had no one else to turn to. She clothed and fed the destitute children who roamed the streets. She used her influence to source for funds, bringing development to the people. In her mind, she thought this good work would be her permanent insurance policy. She believed that if the king ever turned against her, the people of Ife will rise up as one giant army to protect her. But as we speak, the youths of Ife are divided in a way that is causing chaos. One faction is have their shout on her name, saying she's a saint, a mother to the motherless, and she doesn't deserve this treatment. But there is another faction, a group of angry youth who are screaming that they would no longer be enslaved by her gifts. They are saying that her charity was just a bribe to keep them quiet while she disrespected the traditions of the palace. They're standing up saying that they have forgiven too much and they won't keep quiet anymore. As the youths collide with the elders and the elders collide with the palace authorities, the person at the center of it all, Ebony, is beginning to realize she might be standing on a sinking ship. The people who told her they were loyal to her because they loved her father's legacy are starting to look the other way. Why? Because the great lion, the king, has finally tightened his fist. He has asked everyone to choose a side. He told the palace cabinet that he wants to know where everyone stands. No more middle ground. No more playing both sides of the fence. My crown gist friends and families, the most shocking part of this revelation is the role of Ebony's own paternal family. These are the people who should have guided her.
the ones who should have pulled her ear and told her when she was overstepping, but instead they were the ones pushing her deeper into the pit. Why? Because they want to stay relevant. They wanted to keep their influence in the palace of Ife. They celebrated when she married the king, not because they loved her, but because they saw her as a mythic. They manipulated her, fed her ego, and told her she was a spiritual being that no man, even the king, could not touch. They allowed her to believe she was untouchable, but now that the king has withdrawn his sponsorship and the great lion has turned his back, those same family members are nowhere to be found. The taps have run dry, the protection is failing, and the woman who thought she was the ultimate power in Ife is finding out that without the king's grace, the palace is a very cold and lonely place to sleep.
The betrayal in the palace of Ife has reached a level that no one expected. You see, there is a man called Roland Abode. Now, Abode is not just any person. He is one of the uncles to Oba Bolaji, and he was a very close friend to Ebony's father back in the day. People in Ife remember how Abode would leave everything he was doing just to sit in the shrine with Ebony's dad. They would spend hours discussing palace politics, tradition, and the secrets of the land. Because of this old friendship, everyone believed Abode was Ebony's strongest pillar. But as the saying goes, the person who knows you best is the one who can hurt you most. Report has it that Roland Abode is a key member of the Igbi group, and they say this man is the primary reason why Ebony became so stubborn. My crown gist friends and families, they say Abode was the one whispering in her ear, telling her that she was spiritually entitled to the throne. He was the one who allegedly encouraged those stories about her meeting the king in the spiritual realm before they even met physically. He gave her a false sense of security, making her feel like there was absolutely nothing anyone could do to her. But the moment the great lion, the king, stood his ground and said everyone must choose their path, the story changed. The king made it clear, I want to know who is with me and who is against me. He stopped the financial flow, he stopped the special privileges, and just like that, the loyal Roland Abode started to distance himself. Ebony's mother saw this coming. She had been watching these elders eat from her daughter's hand while secretly planning their exit strategy. When the king, the Oba, finally washed his hands off Ebony's matters, the mother broke down again. She saw the elders who used to swear loyalty to her husband's memory suddenly claiming they were only following the truth. They claimed they couldn't support Ebony anymore because of her attitude, but the streets are saying it's because the money stopped. Even more heartbreaking is the story of how some of these elders abandoned her because of their own personal interests. Some say it was because of their children's school fees and their own pockets. They realized that staying with Ebony meant being in the black book of the king, and they weren't ready to suffer for a woman they had spent months misleading. The tension in Ife is now like a boiling pot. You have the youths who are still loyal to Ebony, fighting in the streets and on social media, not knowing that the very elders who gave Ebony the boldness to act the way she did have already surrendered to the king. Ebony is now caught in the middle of a political coalition between the old guard and the new agitation. She is looking at the people she called uncles and fathers as she seems strangers. The mother's cry has now turned into a warning for everyone watching. Do not trust these people. They will mislead you and leave you in the pit they dug for you. The dream of the father is playing out in real time. The peace of the palace has been replaced by a heavy silence, and the Ebony is standing in that silence, realizing that the spiritual backing she thought she had was just a shadow. My crown gist friends and families, the drama is just getting started. The new year has brought a new reality for Ebony, and it is far from the clean slate she hoped for. The manipulation is deep, the lies are many, and the great lion is watching every move.
The palace of Ife is currently holding its breath because the great lion, the king himself, has done something that no one expected. For a long time, the king was silent, watching the drama like a spectator. But as we entered this new year, he decided to sweep the house. My crown gist friends and families, they say when a king remains silent, he is not a fool. He is simply counting the steps of his enemies. The king finally spoke, and his words were like a sharp sword. He made it clear that the palace would no longer be a playground for people who use spirituality to cause wahala. This move sent shockwaves through Ebony's camp. You see, Ebony had relied so much on the fact that she was the favorite, the one who brought grace and resources to the people. But the king's new stance proved that tradition and the peace of the throne are greater than any individual's foundation or charity work. The collision between the youths and the elders reached a boiling point inside the palace square. The youths who support Ebony, those who have benefited from her material gifts, try to make a case for her. They argue that she has done more for the widows and the poor than many of the elders who sit and eat palace food. But the opposing faction of youths countered them, saying, a palace is governed by respect, not by how many bags of rice you distribute. As the youths were arguing, the elders were busy doing what they do best, survival. The elders who used to follow Ebony everywhere, nodding their heads to her every word, suddenly started holding secret meetings with the king's inner circle. They began to distance themselves from Ebony's stubbornness. They claimed that they were only loyal to her father and that they had tried to advise her, but she refused to listen. Can you imagine the wickedness? These were the same men who just months ago were telling her she was the spirit of Ife. Ebony's mother, seeing the handwriting on the wall, attempted to reach out to some of these family members. She went to the paternal side of the family, the ones who pushed Ebony into the king's arms with so much celebration. She asked them, where are you now that the fire is burning? But their response was cold. They told her that Ebony needs to sort herself out with her husband. They have seen that the king's sponsorship of their relevance is at risk, so they are ready to sacrifice Ebony to save their own seats at the palace table. The manipulation is so deep that it's hard to say who is telling the truth anymore. Ebony is now realizing that she was just a tool for these elders to stay close to the king's wealth. They used her father's name to bond with her, then used her marriage to bond with the king. Now that the king has set a boundary, they are peeling off like old paint. The weight of her father's dream is now sitting heavy on Ebony's shoulders. The king is not eating, he is not sleeping, and the peace of the home has vanished. The great lion has roared, and the many loyalists have turned into ghosts. Ebony is looking around the palace, and for the first time, she's seeing the faces of her enemies clearly, and many of them are the people she once called father and uncle.
The drama in the palace of Ife has reached its peak. As the sun sets on this new year, Ebony finds herself standing in a palace that feels more like a prison. The betrayal is complete. The elders who once swore to protect her because of their loyalty to her father have now fully crossed over to the king's side. They didn't just walk away, they ran. The great lion, Oba Bulaji, has made his position final. The word in the palace is that the king has completely washed his hands of the matter. When the king withdraws his support, the ground beneath you disappears. We are hearing that the moment the sponsorship ended, the money, the influence, the protection, the elders changed their tune almost immediately. Even Roland Abodi, the man who was supposed to be Ebony's spiritual guide and her father's closest confidant, has reportedly left her hanging in the cold. Ebony's mother is still in tears, but now her cries are for the future. She is watching her daughter realize that the palace politics she thought she could play was actually a game of wolves. The woman warned her daughter about the dream where the father said Ebony should be the king's peace and not his wahala. Now, that dream is looking like a prophecy fulfilled. The elders from the paternal family who were supposed to guide her into leadership instead guided her straight into a pit of isolation just so they could keep their own relevance. The youth agitation is still simmering, but without the support of the palace or the elders, Ebony's faction is losing ground. The great lion wants order and he wants his peace back.
The question remains, can Ebony swallow her pride and listen to her mother's plea before it's too late? Or will she continue to listen to the few voices left that are leading her to her downfall? Only time will tell if the king will have mercy, or if the father's warning about another woman raising his children will finally come to pass. My Crown Gist friends and families, this story is a heavy lesson for everyone. Be careful of those who cheer you on while you are being stubborn, because they are usually the first to run when your fire starts burning. Please remember all the information shared in this story, including the details about Ebony, the elders, the dreams, and the palace of Ife, are alleged and unverified rumors making the rounds on social media. This is based on gossip and trending gist. It should not be taken as absolute fact or serious news. We are simply bringing you the updates as they are being discussed in the social media space. Thank you for staying with me through this deep dive. Don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and most importantly, subscribe to Crown Gist for more updates at the drop.